Sometimes I joke that if my calling were a job, I would have been fired by now because I see all of the ways I fall short and all of the ways somebody else would do a better job. But I haven't been fired yet. And today I'm going to be talking about why. We're going to talk about the Lord's qualifications and what he looks for when he, quote unquote, hires someone. And some of those things are in your court and some of those are in his. Today, we're going to talk about which part is yours, which part is his, and why you're still on his team. I'm Jamie Knapp, and welcome to Inner Strength Insights, where we talk about how the scriptures apply to real, actual life. Today, we're going to be talking about Doctrine and Covenants sections 51 through 57. So whether you're using this as part of Come Follow Me, or just to help strengthen yourself so that you can be better in every part of life, including raising kids, then I hope today you find the insight you are looking for. Actually, it's been a lot of years ago. Now, I was in a situation where I was helping to hire some people. I was helping to hire a team. And I had never done it before, so I didn't know a lot about it. I was kind of along for the ride. The regional manager was there and he was helping me make the hiring decisions. And we had several people come in for interviews. And there was one particular person who came in, and I'm sitting there in a chair, and the regional manager sitting in another chair. And the person we had just hired was sitting across from us, or we had just interviewed was sitting across from us. And we asked her several questions, and I thought the interview went really well. And she got up and she went out to leave. And she wasn't my favorite candidate, but she wasn't bad either. And he looked at me and he said, "What did you think about that?" And I said, "Oh, I think it's okay. She was not bad." And I said, "What did you think?" And he shook his head and he said, "No." And I said, "Well, she has a lot of experience. I feel like she'd be pretty good." And he said, "Do you want to know what I look for in these interviews?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "I look for personality, skills we can teach." And I realized in that moment that what he was looking for was the type of person that he thought he could work well with and that would be teachable and that he could teach the skills he needed to teach, because he knew that he could teach the skills. But there are other attributes of a person that are a lot harder to change. And so that's what he was looking for. And today, as we dive into Doctrine and Covenants, I'm going to be showing you that that's the reason that the Lord hasn't fired me from my calling yet. And that is that he can teach skills and he knows he can. And as long as I have the attributes he's looking for as far as being willing and teachable, then the rest is in his court and he knows he can take care of that. In Doctrine and Covenants sections 51 through 57, the Lord talks about some expectations he has for his people, for those who will work and do his work for him. And I want to talk about those, and specifically how we can know which part is ours and which part is his, and what he's asking us to do. The first one we find in section 51, verse 9, and that is that he wants to know we can get along well with others. I know that's something that I have put in applications, that I can get along well with. I want to work with lots of different people. And that's actually something the Lord wants as well. But he calls it something a little different. He calls it unity. In section 51, verse 9, he says, "And let every man deal honestly and be alike among this people, and receive alike, that ye may be one, even as I have commanded you." When I was doing those interviews, it was very easy to see who would work well with other people and who would struggle to get along. Maybe someone who had a harder time compromising or a harder time just interacting with people. And the same goes for us in life. When we have a hard time working with other people, or a hard time even being united with the people around us, then it's really hard for us to do the Lord's work, because unity is such an important part of everything he does. So the first requirement is that we have to be able to work with other people, or at least be willing to learn to. Now, that being said, is this my natural strong point? Actually, no. I grew up being a perfectionist. I liked to do things the right way and my way, if we're being honest. And I often had a hard time because other people did things differently. And this is actually an attribute I've been trying to work on, to recognize that everybody does things differently and there are multiple ways to do things, and recognizing that everyone has different things to contribute and letting everyone contribute in their own way. Now, why does the Lord ask us to do this? Well, because if there's contention and division, then we actually undercut each other and we undercut the end result. The Lord's work is the goal. And so if we are fighting against each other, then we're not going to get there. It's important that we all work together. And so unity is the first thing we need to work towards. Now, is that his job or is that ours? Well, we have to choose to be open and we have to choose to be united. But can he help us? Absolutely. The scriptures tell us that charity is a gift unto all the followers of Christ. So if we ask for it, he can help us to have charity for other people, which can in turn help us be more unified. Number 2 is that he wants someone who is dependable and loyal. Now, when you're hiring, you need to know that the people you hire are going to show up, that you can count on them to do what needs done, and that they're going to have the goal of the company in mind, that they're going to be someone you can trust. And the Lord wants to know that he can trust us too. In section 52, verse 4, it says, "Inasmuch as they are faithful to me, it shall be made known unto them what they shall do." Now, what does it mean to be faithful? Well, to be faithful means that you stick by someone, especially during difficult times. It means that you have a deep dedication to not only the person, but also your relationship with them, that they're trustworthy, that they keep their promises and commitments, that they're dependable, and also that there's a form of honesty and transparency there, that you can be open and truthful with them. If someone has those attributes, then you know they're loyal to you. You know you can trust them. And the Lord wants the same from us. He wants to know that he can trust us even when life doesn't turn out like we hoped, even when we don't understand all the details, even when things happen that we don't like. He wants to know that we will still trust him as our God and that we will still follow his lead. Now, is this our role? Is this his? Yes. He is going to guide us along. He understands that things are going to be hard for us. So if we will be open and transparent with him, if when we struggle, if we will go to him and say, "I'm having a hard time with this. This doesn't make sense. This is really hard for me," then he will help walk us through that. It doesn't mean we have to have perfect faith, that we have to never have doubts, or that we have to always believe everything. What it means is that we need to want to. That we need to be willing to go to him when we have questions or when we have concerns, and that we need to be honest about that and ask him to help us through those. And if we do that, he always will. And then we can know that not only can he trust us, but also we can trust him. Number 3 is that we need to be teachable. Now, the scriptures call this having a contrite spirit. Kind of a weird word, but let's talk about what a contrite spirit means. In section 52, verse 15, it says, "He that prayeth, whose spirit is contrite, the same is accepted of me if he obeys mine ordinances." So recognizing your dependence on God and being willing to lay down your own desires and surrender to his will is really what it means to be contrite. Now, the opposite would be kind of where I was a lot of my life, and that is, I know what's best and I'm going to do it my way, and this is how you should do it. Contrite is kind of the opposite. It's recognizing, hey, I really thought this was the best way, but you say this is, I'm going to trust you. Let's go with your plan. And recognizing that the Lord has so much more experience and wisdom than we do, and knowing that we can believe what he says and then trusting it'll work out. That's what it means to be contrite. It means that when your will and his will don't mesh, that you trust his above yours and have that faith to follow him, even when it doesn't make sense, even when it's hard, even when it's not your first choice. Now, if we do this, the Lord also gives us a promise. In section 52, verse 34, he says, "He that is faithful, the same shall be kept and blessed with much fruit." He isn't just asking us to put the Lord's will above our own just to show we're obedient. He's asking us to do that because he knows what's best, and it's going to allow him to bless us in ways he couldn't otherwise. So as we have a contrite heart, as we trust him, we're going to receive so many blessings that we would not be able to receive otherwise. And that brings us to number 4, which is we need to be a team player. Now, when I was hiring, I wanted to make sure the personalities on my team would work well together. Now, it looks a little different for the Lord. What he wants is he wants us to be thinking of other people, which is really what it means to be a team player. When you are a team player, you're not just concerned about number 1. You're not just concerned about you. You're concerned about how does this work for the team? Does this person need help? Can I help out? Do I need to step in here, even though this isn't exactly my job? That's what it means to be a team player, and the Lord wants the same from us. Now, one of the ways he wants this is in regards to money. In section 52, verse 40, he says, "Remember in all things the poor and the needy, the sick and the afflicted. For he that doeth not these things, the same is not my disciple." My daughter came home the other night and she's in a play. And so her job is to learn her parts, to learn her songs, to show up and to do the play. But she came home with a bunch of costumes that she ended up making. And I said, "Why are you making costumes? You're not doing costumes this time. You're in the play." And she said, "Because they needed done. The play's going to start and they haven't been done yet. And I know how to do it." And so she was a team player. She stepped in, even though it wasn't her job, and she did what needed done. And the Lord appreciates that. He recognizes that we are all in different places. Some of us have more abundance than others. Some of us have more capacity to earn an income than others. And some of us have more trials than others financially. And so he does ask us to be a team player and to step in and help those that are struggling more than we are. But this is interesting because he gives a couple of distinctions. He says it's not just about helping the people that need money, but he's also saying that even if you are that person who needs the money, there's a couple of different paths you could take. And one is that he says that you could, whether you are rich or poor, your heart is really what it's about. So let's read what he says about that. He cautions, he says that the saints have some things to repent of because their hearts are not satisfied. He explains in verse 16, he says, "Woe unto you, rich men, that will not give your substance to the poor, for your riches will canker your souls." Now, having money is not evil, but having money and being unwilling to fill the need when you see it, that does canker your soul. Now, a canker, you can think of like a canker sore. It's eating at the flesh. It's eating at you. It's something that is making you less than whole. So does it make you evil? No. But if you have those riches, you are expected to be a team player and to fill the need when you see it. But there's more. In verse 17, he says, "Woe unto you, poor men," so the opposite, "whose hearts are not broken, whose spirits are not contrite, and whose bellies are not satisfied." So wait, you can be poor or rich and have the same feelings? Yes. Let's continue on. "And whose hands are not stayed from laying hold upon others men's good, whose eyes are full of greediness." So here the Lord is pointing out it's not the money that is the problem, it's the heart space. It's where your heart is. Are you giving thanks to God for everything you have? And are you, when you see a need, remembering that all things come from God? And in that realm, remembering, hey, this is God's and it's not mine. So I'm going to share and I'm going to give. Whether you're rich or poor, the same is expected. And I think that is very, very powerful. In verse 18, he says, now here's the flip side again. "But blessed are the poor who are pure in heart, whose hearts are broken, and whose spirits are contrite." Remember, willing to submit to the Lord is what that meant. "For they shall see the kingdom of God coming in power and great glory unto their deliverance. For the fatness of the earth shall be theirs." Now, when it's talking about the fatness of the earth, what it means is it is the bounty, the abundance of the earth. And in this sense, it's referring to the state of the world when the Lord comes again. So this is not just temporal, this is also spiritual. We know that the earth will become the celestial kingdom. So we're talking not only about temporal abundance, but also more specifically spiritual abundance, an inheritance in Zion, the best of everything heaven has to offer. In verse 19, it continues on, for behold, the Lord shall come, and his recompense shall be with him, and he shall reward every man. So what does recompense mean? Recompense means to pay back or to deal justly. So what the Lord is going to do is he is going to deal justly with us according to what we have done and where our hearts have been. So these four things, if we want to just review here, is get along well with others, that unity, being dependable, loyal, trustworthy, being teachable, having that contrite spirit, putting the Lord's will above yours. And fourth, being a team player, being that righteous steward of money, being willing to fill those needs when you see it. Why does the Lord ask for these things? Well, he asks for these things because they all have to do with where our hearts are. They are who we choose to be. Now, we may fall short, we may mess up, we may not do all of the things we're supposed to do, but if we can align our hearts with his, if we can desire to put his will first, if we can desire to love and serve, then he can fill in the gaps. He can teach us the skills. And just like my regional manager said, he can take care of that stuff. That stuff can be taught. But what he needs us to give, our part, is our hearts. We need to be willing. We need to be willing to be taught. We need to be willing to trust him. And when it's hard, we need to be open and go to him and say, hey, this is hard. Please help me through this. And he will teach us what we need to know because he knows what he's doing. He doesn't just hire the crew. He trains them and makes sure the job gets done. I'm Jamie Knapp. I hope this helped you love your life, live your mission, and raise kids who do the same. If so, please do subscribe so that you'll be notified when I make future videos.